day 1818.
How about freaking no? That was a bit harder than normal, Hugh!
Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm RetroNemo, and today we're talking about something I've been waiting a long time for, one of my most anticipated shows of 2018, and just in general, Final Space. Ever since this original pilot dropped on YouTube all the way back in 2016, I've been waiting for this show to happen. Now it's finally here, so let's just get into it. Now, this is a sort of first impressions, thoughts, review sort of video on the first 2 episodes that just came out. I can't really give a full review of the show because, as of now, there's only 2 episodes to talk about. Now, since Final Space is a serialized story with an ongoing plot, here's your spoiler warning now. But since this is the first 2 episodes, there's not really much to spoil. Basically, if you want to go in completely blind, here's your warning now. Spearheaded by Olan Rogers, who actually got a start on YouTube, this show follows the wild astronaut Gary and his adorable alien friend Mooncake while they attempt to search for the elusive Final Space. This is the place where the universe itself actually ends. Kind of the opposite of No Man's Sky, if you remember that game. This is a great concept in terms of sci-fi. It's just vague enough to allow an original story to develop without being too complicated. So kudos to the team there. However, you don't get to see a lot of that in these first 2 episodes. They mainly focus on setting up the story and getting the whole thing started. It's like, how do they meet? Where do their motivations come from? Who's this villain? You know, basic first episode stuff. TBS actually released the first 2 episodes together as a 2-parter. That's how you know it's good when they can't even fit it all into 1 episode. However, this isn't technically the pilot, they're just the first 2 episodes of the actual series. The full pilot can be found on YouTube, as I'm assuming that's what Olan used for his original pitch. The pilot itself is spectacular, actually. I'm not trying to shower this guy with compliments, but seriously, this is one of the best pilots I've ever seen. There are entire video essays on it. Why is it so good? I'm not throwing this out there, but no one's made a video essay about the Roundtable yet, and I'm kind of sad about that. Just any fan that wants to, you'll get a retweet from me for sure. Final Space is definitely a passion project. Olan's been trying to get this thing made since 2010. The origins are crazy. It wasn't until the talk show host legend Conan O'Brien saw the pilot and actually flew him out to LA to pitch the show that it was finally in development. The pitch was so successful that Olan had to decide between multiple networks, including YouTube, and ended up going with TBS. TBS seems to be embracing this sort of indie internet origin. The first 2 episodes of the series premiered on Reddit for the very first time. You know, the front page of the internet. And I was able to watch the full episode on their website. It's all accessible online. Clearly, they're trying hard here to build an online fan base by making it as accessible as possible. And this is the future of television, so they know what they're doing. But enough on the history, let's talk about the show itself, guys. I'm not gonna lie, Final Space is pretty great. These first 2 episodes had me laughing, they had me in my feels, they had me on the edge of my seat. But it also had its flaws, I won't lie to you, so let's just look at it all evenly and decide if Final Space is worth a watch. This whole show centers on Gary. Gary is a sort of Star-Lord-esque space nomad who wanders wherever looking for an adventure to get into and all sorts of shenanigans like that. That is until he destroys a ton of government spaceships as you're impersonating an officer to get with a girl, and he gets sent to prison. And that's where we find him 5 years into the end of his sentence, aboard a prison ship. He's been serving his time without any human contact, just hanging with robots. The series kicks off when he literally gets hit with this cute green little alien that he names Mooncake. But problems arise when a group of bounty hunters come to take Mooncake back since he's a pretty big deal. That's where the show really starts to shine with a seriously well put together action sequence. Now this is where we first get to see things that separate Final Space from other animation, other adult anime cartoons, stuff like that. The show handles animation itself really well. When you look at TBS animation, you think like, oh, American Dad, but this show seriously had an animation budget, and at times it really shows. There aren't a lot of shows on TV right now, period, with action like this. And it goes back to it consistently too. It's not just once an episode. There were more than 3 in just these first 2 episodes alone, and it doesn't shy away from violence either. Thanks to the show being an adult cartoon and airing on TBS, it doesn't have to shy away with violence. Not to say that there's too much violence or anything, it feels pretty balanced actually. There were a couple of times where I forgot what I was watching and then all of a sudden someone would draw blood and I'd be like, whoa! Oh wait. Yeah, we're on TBS. The worst I saw in terms of gore was when Gary actually loses his arm at the end of episode 2. They straight showed his arm getting physically torn off. Blood was gushing. I was kind of shocked. It was handled in a super comedic way though, which kind of made it better in terms of the show's overall tone. He ran around with his arm exposed through a whole chase scene, and I kind of began to understand how this show kind of works. It can be serious at times, like for real serious, yet it still follows a lot of cartoon universe laws. For instance, there's more than one scene where Gary jumps from great heights and just lands without taking any damage. Basically, this is a serious show, but at the end of the day, it's a cartoon. It still exists in the laws of a cartoon world. It follows cartoon logic at times, but that's not to say that it's a comedy. Final Space is definitely not a comedy. If anything, it's a serialized space opera. And like any good opera, there's action, comedy, and drama, all packed into 22 minutes each. It did a great job of balancing all three of these in a natural way, I gotta give it to him. When it went from a funny scene to a serious one, it did not seem jarring at all. And that's probably because it set itself up like that from the beginning. I feel like in terms of cartoons that are on nowadays, not too many of them have a lot of ambition. They stick to one genre. Not to say that there aren't any other shows with multiple genres out there, just that it seems like more cartoons opt for a sort of comedy one-off with a possible story arc that they'll implement into the series. It's been a long time since a cartoon has pitched itself as an action comedy adventure drama series since like the early 2000s. Think Avatar with like less Western influences. Again, not to say that this is the only show out right now doing this. Clearly, it's Steven Universe, Star, like all these other shows are doing it, but Final Space is one of them that I've seen that's been very determined to tell a specific story from the beginning. This show is just oozing with ambition, you can tell. And it is very much a serialized story. There is no jumping around into a random episode here. Final Space makes itself clear from the beginning. They waste no time putting it all into action, and by episode 2, you'll already be invested in the story. There's a good side, a bad side, a mysterious green alien with the power to destroy planets, different character dynamics and subplots, character you love. Oh, it's a lot. In terms of characters, Final Space does not hold back. By the end of these first 2 episodes, we have what seems like our main cast. Gary is of course a lovable main character. Mooncake is the alien everyone's after who seems to hold incredible power. Avocado is the bounty hunter who befriends Gary after trying to kill him. Quinn is the captain of the Infinity Guard who's smart and great at what she does, but incredibly underappreciated by her colleagues. The main villain of the series is the incredibly small and incredibly powerful Lord Commander, voiced by David Tennant himself. Oh shoot, yeah, I forgot to mention, this show has a ton of celebrity voices. Fred Armisen, David Tennant, Tom Kenny, Stephen Ewan, John DiMaggio. The only person they're missing at this point is Tara Strong, and they would have genuinely had every voice actor ever. But the cast does a great job of not sounding like themselves. Unlike other TV shows with famous actors doing a voice, I had no idea half of these people were who they were. Like, I had to look up all these actors just to make sure I got it right. Save for the people whose voices are already legendarily recognizable, like Tom Kenny. You hear that man's voice anywhere and you instantly recognize it. The show also made me laugh a lot. Though I'm not gonna lie, some of the comedy to me seemed borderline cringy at some moments. A lot of the jokes still made me laugh. They did a lot of recurring gags, like Gary's constant battle to get a chocolate chip cookie, or his constant video logs being to Quinn, who at this point doesn't even really know that he exists. There's also plenty of hilarious scenarios too. For instance, in the second episode, Gary has to hide in the skin of a dead alien, and at one point in a sick twist, he winds up in front of their family. They rush to him thinking that their mom is alive. It was dark, twisted, hilarious. It had me laughing, honestly. But again, the comedy is just a small part of Final Space. Though the show is lighthearted, it is not all jokes. In terms of visuals, it looks genuinely amazing. There were more than a couple of times during these 2 episodes where I was pretty blown away by what I was seeing, especially for like a TBS show. Just so many cinematic space shots and great action scenes. A lot of details in the background. You can tell they're building a world here. I found myself gazing at the background a lot just to see what was going on. At one point, I actually paused it just to look at everything that was going on. It's a great work with the art direction. Some of the animation at times looked like motion tweeting, but it's such a weird, different blend, and you only notice it sometimes. Other times it looks really fluid, so I don't know what's really going on there. Another thing I noticed is they add the camera shake effect to a lot of scenes, which gets a little old if you notice it, but honestly, that's just nitpicking. Final Space definitely has a lot going for it, and it's one of the best cartoons I've seen in a long time. The concept of adult cartoon has gotten muddled with boring sitcom shows in the vein of Seth MacFarlane, and the whole genre seemed to me like it was just dead. We need something like Final Space, something that's ambitious and exciting enough to change things up. I do, however, want to get some criticisms out of the way with the show, though none are too major and honestly a little nitpicky. First of all, okay, this theme song is a little more than rough. Looks like the Futurama spaceships, but everything in that style. Hopefully the show gets a revamped intro, or they just switch to using the title, I don't know. It just, every time I see it, I'm like, ooh. This next one is just a little bit, but depends more on opinion. I feel like Gary's a little much sometimes. And this one mostly boils down to like Olan, who he is, how he acts, because if you watch his YouTube channels, you can tell Gary is just him. The way he talks is very, very, very energetic and passionate, and at times I found myself getting a little bit annoyed by it. Maybe it's just me, and it'll probably get better with time, but like he just randomly screams a lot, and it kind of got a little old. It's just my opinion. One thing I was worried about but didn't have a problem with was this show does not feel like it's trying too hard to be what it is. It could easily be trying too hard to fit in a story and drama and come off as just kind of like a lame attempt at a story-driven, plot-heavy show. However, it came off as balanced and natural, almost effortless. Any other problems I have were just too nitpicky to mention, but I just want to make it clear that as great as this show is, it's not perfect. But then again, guys, what is perfect anymore besides Gravity Falls? Overall, Final Space is a TV show with a lot of ambition and a strong vision for what it wants to be. It's surprisingly cinematic, narratively dense, and at times extremely funny. All of the while managing to still have a ton of heart. However, no show is perfect, and Final Space definitely comes with its flaws. Overall, though, it looks to be a promising step in the right direction for adult animation and television animation as a whole. I would definitely recommend this show wholeheartedly. If anything, watch it before it blows up, because I think this is a promising start to a series that ultimately will become as successful as it is ambitious. But as always, what do you guys think? Did you watch Final Space? What'd you think of it? Let us know in the comments down below. If you like the video, give it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Olan Rogers, if you're watching this by any chance, I love you. You're an amazing man and your cartoon's great. And as always, I've been RetroNemo. This has been my thoughts on Final Space, and I'll see you guys next time.